Hey, welcome back to the channel, and if you're watching this right now, I want you to stop whatever else you're doing for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to share with you could genuinely change the way you eat, the way you feel, and honestly, how well your body holds up over the next decade and beyond. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Dr. Hamilton, vegetables are vegetables. They're all good for you. Eat your greens, right? That's what we were all told growing up. Finish your plate, eat your vegetables, and you'll be healthy. And for most of your life, that advice was mostly fine. But here's the thing nobody tells you, and this is something I've seen firsthand in my years of working with older adults. Once you cross that threshold into your 60s and beyond, your body changes in ways that are profound and sometimes completely invisible to you until something goes wrong. Your gut works differently, your hormone levels shift, your metabolism slows down, your kidneys filter blood at a different rate, your joints are under more stress, your cardiovascular system has decades of wear on it. And because of all of that, certain vegetables that are perfectly fine for a 30-year-old can actually be working against you in your 60s. Not because those vegetables are bad in general, but because your biology at this stage of life responds to them in a completely different way. And on the flip side, certain vegetables become almost like medicine for you at this age. They target the exact biological processes that start to break down after 60. They fight inflammation, protect your heart, support your brain, strengthen your bones, and help your body do the things it's struggling to do naturally. These are the vegetables you want on your plate every single week without fail. So today I'm going to walk you through both sides of that equation. 3 vegetables you should be very cautious about, or in some cases completely avoid once you're over 60, and 3 vegetables that I genuinely believe every person over 60 should be eating regularly. I'm going to explain the science behind all of it in a way that actually makes sense, not just throwing terms at you, but helping you understand what's happening in your body and why it matters. Let's get into it. Now, before I get to the specific vegetables, I want to give you a little bit of context because understanding the why is going to make all of this stick with you much better than just giving you a list to memorize. After 60, one of the biggest shifts that happens in your body is a dramatic increase in what we call systemic inflammation. This is not the kind of inflammation you see when you twist your ankle and it swells up. That's acute inflammation, and it's actually your immune system doing its job beautifully. What I'm talking about is chronic, low-grade inflammation that simmers underneath the surface all day, every day, slowly damaging your tissues, your arteries, your joints, your brain cells. Researchers now refer to this phenomenon as inflammaging, a combination of inflammation and aging, and it's linked to virtually every major chronic disease that affects older adults, including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, arthritis, and even certain cancers. At the same time, your digestive system becomes more sensitive and less efficient. The lining of your gut thins out. Beneficial bacteria in your microbiome start to decline. Enzyme production slows down. This means certain foods that your gut handled just fine 20 years ago might now cause bloating, gas, discomfort, or even more serious issues like nutrient malabsorption. Your kidneys also deserve special attention here. After 60, kidney function naturally declines, and this matters a great deal when it comes to certain vegetables, because some vegetables are high in compounds like oxalates or potassium that a younger, fully functioning kidney can process without any trouble, but an older kidney may struggle with. This can contribute to kidney stones, elevated potassium levels in the blood, which affects heart rhythm, and other complications that can sneak up on you. And then there's the interaction between vegetables and medications. A large percentage of people over 60 are taking 1 or more prescription medications, and some vegetables have compounds in them that can interfere with how those medications work. This is not a minor issue. This is something that can actually change how much of a medication is active in your system, which can either reduce the drug's effectiveness or potentially increase the risk of side effects. I'm telling you all of this not to scare you, but because understanding these mechanisms is what's going to help you make smart, informed choices at the grocery store and in your kitchen. All right, now let's talk about the vegetables you want to be careful with. The first vegetable I want to talk about is one that a lot of people in the health world hold up as a superfood, and in many ways, for many people, it genuinely is. But for people over 60, it comes with some serious caveats that you need to know about. I'm talking about raw spinach. Now, spinach in general is packed with nutrients. It has iron, it has folate, it has vitamin K, it has antioxidants. I'm not disputing any of that. But raw spinach is one of the highest sources of oxalates in the plant kingdom. Oxalates are naturally occurring compounds found in many plants, and in moderate amounts for most people, they're not a big deal. Your body can handle them and excrete them. But as your kidney function declines with age, your ability to process and eliminate oxalates becomes less efficient. Here's where it gets important. Oxalates bind to calcium in your digestive tract and in your kidneys, forming calcium oxalate crystals. These crystals are the primary component of kidney stones, and older adults are significantly more vulnerable to developing kidney stones than younger people. If you've ever had a kidney stone, you know that is not something you want to experience again. And if you haven't, trust me, it's one of the most intensely painful medical experiences a person can go through. But it doesn't stop at kidney stones. Oxalates can also accumulate in other tissues in the body, including your joints, which is the last thing you need if you're already dealing with arthritis or joint inflammation. And there's growing research suggesting that high oxalate consumption can affect thyroid function and contribute to issues with nutrient absorption, particularly calcium and magnesium, two minerals that are absolutely critical for bone health in older adults. Now here's the key thing I want you to remember. Cooking spinach dramatically reduces its oxalate content. When you steam or sauté spinach, a significant portion of those oxalates leach out, and you also reduce the overall volume dramatically, which means you're naturally eating less of it. So the problem isn't spinach itself, it's eating large quantities of raw spinach. Particularly if you're someone who loves making big green smoothies with multiple handfuls of raw spinach every day. That's where the risk starts to add up. My recommendation is simple. If you love spinach and want to keep it in your diet, which is absolutely fine, always cook it first. A quick sauté in a little olive oil with some garlic is delicious and dramatically reduces those oxalate levels. And if you're someone with a history of kidney issues or kidney stones, have a conversation with your doctor about your oxalate intake specifically. The second vegetable I want to discuss is one that might genuinely surprise you, and when I bring this up with patients, I often get some pushback at first. The vegetable is raw cruciferous vegetables, and I'm talking specifically about things like raw kale, raw Brussels sprouts, raw broccoli, and raw cauliflower when consumed in large amounts. Again, I need to be very clear here. Cruciferous vegetables are among the most nutritionally powerful foods on earth. The research on their cancer-fighting properties alone is extraordinary. They contain compounds called glucosinolates that convert to powerful anti-cancer molecules in your body. They're high in fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants. I am absolutely not telling you to stop eating broccoli. What I'm telling you is that the raw, high-quantity version of these vegetables can cause some real problems specifically for people over 60. Here's why. Cruciferous vegetables contain compounds called goitrogens. These are substances that can interfere with thyroid function by blocking the uptake of iodine, which your thyroid gland needs to produce its hormones. Now, for a healthy younger person eating reasonable amounts of these vegetables, this is generally not a significant concern. But thyroid function naturally declines with age. Hypothyroidism, an underactive thyroid, becomes increasingly common after 60, particularly in women. And many older adults are already on thyroid medication or are borderline hypothyroid without even knowing it. When you're eating large amounts of raw cruciferous vegetables on top of already compromised thyroid function, you can be compounding a problem that's silently affecting your energy levels, your metabolism, your weight, your mood, your brain function, and your cardiovascular health. Because your thyroid is essentially the master regulator of your metabolism, and when it's not working properly, almost everything else in your body suffers too. Additionally, raw cruciferous vegetables are extremely high in a type of fiber that, while beneficial in moderate amounts, can be very harsh on a digestive system that's already slowing down with age. The bloating, gas, and digestive discomfort that many older adults experience after eating raw broccoli or kale are not just minor inconveniences. They're signs that your gut is working overtime to process something it's struggling with, and chronic digestive stress has its own downstream effects on your overall health and nutrient absorption. Once again, cooking is the solution here. When you steam, roast, or stir-fry your cruciferous vegetables, the heat deactivates a significant portion of the goitrogenic compounds. The fiber becomes much more digestible, and honestly, roasted broccoli or Brussels sprouts taste absolutely incredible and are one of my personal favorites. So don't give up these vegetables. Just make cooking them a non-negotiable habit and be mindful about consuming large raw quantities. Now we come to the third vegetable on the caution list, and this one is particularly important for a specific subset of people over 60, but it's a large enough subset that I feel it needs to be included in this conversation. The vegetable is raw tomatoes, and more specifically, the issue is nightshade vegetables as a category, which also includes bell peppers, eggplant, and white potatoes. Now, tomatoes are rich in lycopene, which is a powerful antioxidant that's particularly beneficial for heart health and has been linked to reduced prostate cancer risk. I'm not dismissing any of that. But raw tomatoes, along with the other nightshades, contain a group of compounds called alkaloids, the most notable of which is solanine. These alkaloids are part of the plant's natural defense system against insects and pathogens, and in most healthy people, they cause no issues whatsoever. However, for people over 60 who are dealing with inflammatory conditions, particularly arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, or other joint issues, there is a growing body of evidence and a very significant body of clinical observation suggesting that nightshade alkaloids can aggravate inflammation and worsen joint pain in people who are sensitive to them. Not everyone is sensitive. This is an individual thing. But the percentage of older adults who react poorly to nightshades is high enough that it absolutely warrants attention. The alkaloids in nightshades can irritate the gut lining, contribute to intestinal permeability, which is sometimes called leaky gut, and in sensitive individuals trigger an inflammatory immune response that shows up as increased joint pain, stiffness, and swelling. If you're someone who is managing arthritis or any inflammatory joint condition, and you've been eating a lot of tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant, without noticing improvement in your symptoms despite other efforts, this is something worth experimenting with by removing nightshades from your diet for 4 to 6 weeks and paying close attention to how you feel. Additionally, raw tomatoes are high in histamine and can trigger histamine reactions in people who have age-related declines in diamine oxidase, the enzyme that breaks down histamine in your gut. This can manifest as headaches, skin flushing, nasal congestion, and fatigue, all symptoms that many older adults chalk up to just getting older when the real culprit might be sitting right there on their salad plate. And one more thing about tomatoes specifically. Because of their acidity, they can aggravate acid reflux and GERD, conditions that become increasingly common as the lower esophageal sphincter weakens with age. If you're one of the millions of older adults dealing with heartburn or acid reflux, raw tomatoes could be making it significantly worse. Cooking tomatoes actually increases their lycopene availability, so you're not losing the benefits by cooking them, you're gaining them. A slow-cooked tomato sauce, a roasted tomato, a tomato-based soup, all of these give you the goodness of tomatoes while reducing the alkaloid content and eliminating the acid problem for most people. Alright, now we get to the part that I personally find the most exciting, because this is where we talk about the vegetables that are not just safe for you over 60, but that are actively working in your favor. These are the vegetables that target the exact biological vulnerabilities that come with aging. These are the ones I want you to make a priority, and I want you to really listen to this section, because the science here is genuinely remarkable. The first vegetable I want to talk about is one that has been used medicinally for thousands of years and that modern science has now given us extraordinary evidence to support. That vegetable is garlic. Now, I know some of you might not technically think of garlic as a vegetable in the traditional sense, but it absolutely is, and it belongs right at the top of any list of foods that are specifically beneficial for people over 60. Let me tell you why. Garlic contains a compound called allicin, which is produced when garlic is crushed or chopped, and the enzyme alliinase interacts with a compound called alliin. Allicin is one of the most powerful, naturally occurring antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, and cardiovascular protective compounds that we know of, and the research on what allicin and the other sulfur compounds in garlic do for your cardiovascular system specifically is nothing short of extraordinary. Multiple large-scale studies have shown that regular garlic consumption can measurably reduce blood pressure, particularly in people with hypertension, which is one of the most common and dangerous conditions affecting adults over 60. We're talking reductions comparable to some blood pressure medications without the side effects. It reduces LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, while preserving or even improving HDL, the good cholesterol. It reduces the tendency of blood platelets to clump together, which lowers the risk of clots that can cause heart attacks and strokes. But here's something that I find particularly fascinating about garlic for older adults. Garlic has powerful prebiotic properties. It feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut microbiome, which, as I mentioned earlier, tends to decline significantly with age. A healthy, diverse gut microbiome is now understood to be connected to virtually every aspect of your health, including your immune function, your mental health, your weight management, and your protection against chronic disease. By eating garlic regularly, you're essentially nurturing the internal ecosystem that keeps your whole body running more smoothly. Garlic also has impressive anti-cancer properties, with the strongest evidence pointing to a reduced risk of stomach and colorectal cancers. And there is growing research on garlic's neuroprotective effects, suggesting it may help protect brain cells and reduce the risk of age-related cognitive decline. The way to get the most out of garlic is to crush or chop it first, and then let it sit for about 10 minutes before cooking. This allows the enzymatic reaction that produces allicin to complete fully. Adding it at the end of cooking or eating some raw garlic, if you can handle it, preserves even more of the active compounds. Aim for at least 2 to 3 cloves per day, and you can incorporate it into practically anything: soups, sauces, stir-fries, salad dressings, roasted vegetables. It's one of the most versatile and flavor-packed ingredients in your kitchen, and it's working hard for your health every single time. The second vegetable I want to talk about is one that I consider to be perhaps the single most important vegetable for bone health in older adults, and that alone makes it non-negotiable in my view. I'm talking about bok choy, sometimes called Chinese cabbage, and more broadly, the family of cooked leafy greens it belongs to, alongside collard greens, mustard greens, and turnip greens. Now, most people, when they think about bone health and calcium, immediately think of dairy. Drink your milk, get your calcium, protect your bones. And while dairy certainly has its place, bok choy and these cooked leafy greens actually provide highly bioavailable calcium, meaning your body can absorb and use it very efficiently, sometimes even more efficiently than the calcium in dairy. And this matters enormously after 60 because bone density loss accelerates dramatically during this period, particularly in women following menopause, but also significantly in men. Osteoporosis and osteopenia are epidemic in the over 60 population. The statistics are sobering. About 1 in 2 women and 1 in 4 men over the age of 50 will break a bone due to osteoporosis at some point in their remaining lifetime. Hip fractures in older adults are particularly devastating, with a significant percentage leading to long-term disability and loss of independence, and a genuinely frightening percentage being associated with mortality within the following year. So protecting your bone density is not a vanity issue, it is a survival issue. Bok choy and cooked collard greens give you that highly absorbable calcium, but what really sets them apart is their vitamin K content. Vitamin K2 in particular, though bok choy contains vitamin K1, which your body can partially convert, plays a crucial role in directing calcium to where it actually belongs in your body, which is your bones and teeth, rather than allowing it to deposit in your arteries, which is a problem called arterial calcification that contributes to cardiovascular disease. So these greens are simultaneously protecting your bones and protecting your heart, which is a remarkable thing for a single food to accomplish. These vegetables are also rich in folate, vitamin C, potassium, and various antioxidant compounds. And because they are cooked rather than raw when consumed this way, the digestive issues associated with raw cruciferous vegetables that I mentioned earlier are largely eliminated. Bok choy in particular is incredibly versatile. You can stir-fry it quickly in sesame oil and garlic, add it to soups and broths, or steam it as a simple side dish. Collard greens are wonderful slow-cooked with a bit of olive oil and onion. The key is to make these cooked dark leafy greens a regular feature of your weekly meals, not just an occasional afterthought. And now we come to the third vegetable that I absolutely want every person over 60 to be eating, and this one is specifically for your brain. Because one of the biggest fears I hear from my patients in this age group, more than heart disease, more than cancer, is the fear of losing their mind, the fear of cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's disease. And while there is no single food that can guarantee you protection against these conditions, the research on this particular vegetable and brain health is among the most compelling and consistent that I've seen in my years of studying nutrition science. The vegetable I'm talking about is beets, and specifically cooked beets and beet greens. Here's what makes beets so special for your brain. Beets are one of the richest dietary sources of nitrates, and I don't mean the synthetic nitrates added to processed meats. I mean naturally occurring dietary nitrates that your body converts into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a molecule that causes your blood vessels to relax and dilate, which improves blood flow throughout your entire body, including and most importantly to your brain. As we age, one of the key factors driving cognitive decline is reduced blood flow to the brain. The small blood vessels in your brain become stiffer and less responsive. Areas of your brain that are responsible for memory, executive function, and processing speed begin to receive less oxygen and fewer nutrients. This is the slow starvation of your brain cells, and it's happening quietly in millions of older adults right now. Research from Wake Forest University, which I find particularly compelling, demonstrated that older adults who drank beet juice before exercise showed dramatically increased blood flow to the white matter of the frontal lobes, the region of the brain most associated with higher-order thinking, decision-making, and working memory. The improvements were visible on brain scans and were significant. This is not a minor effect. This is beets literally feeding your brain more effectively. But the benefits of beets don't stop at cognitive health. The same nitric oxide mechanism that improves brain blood flow also reduces blood pressure and improves cardiovascular efficiency. Beets are also rich in betalains, the pigments that give them that deep red color, and betalains are potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds that help combat the chronic inflammation I talked about earlier. Beets also contain betaine, a compound that plays an important role in reducing homocysteine levels in the blood. Elevated homocysteine is a significant risk factor for heart disease, stroke, and cognitive decline, and it becomes increasingly common as we age, particularly in people with lower B vitamin status. Beets help keep homocysteine in check, which is yet another way they're protecting your heart and your brain simultaneously. And don't overlook the beet greens. The leafy tops of beets are edible and incredibly nutritious, containing iron, calcium, vitamin K, and powerful antioxidants. Sauté them just like you would any other dark leafy green. They have a slightly earthy, mild flavor, and they are absolutely packed with goodness. In terms of how to eat beets, roasting them brings out their natural sweetness and makes them incredibly delicious. You can slice them and roast them in the oven with a little olive oil and salt, add them to grain bowls or salads after cooking, blend them into soups, or yes, juice them if you have a juicer. If you're on blood thinners, have a conversation with your doctor about your beet intake because of the vitamin K content. But for most people, adding beets to your regular rotation is one of the smartest dietary decisions you can make after 60. Before I wrap up, I want to address something that I know is going through some of your minds right now. You might be thinking, Dr. Hamilton, this feels overwhelming. There's so much to think about and change, and I want to reassure you that making improvements to your diet doesn't have to be an overwhelming overhaul that you do all at once. The goal is progress, not perfection. Start with one change. Maybe it's committing to cook your spinach instead of eating it raw. Or maybe it's adding a clove or two of garlic to dinner 3 or 4 nights this week. Or maybe it's picking up some beets at the grocery store this weekend and trying a roasted beet recipe for the first time. Small, consistent changes compound over time into massive improvements in how you feel, how your body functions, and how many good quality years you get to enjoy. Your body is remarkable. Even after 60, 70, 80 years of life, your biology still responds to the right inputs. Your gut microbiome can change and improve within weeks of shifting your diet. Your blood pressure can respond to dietary changes within days. Your brain can receive better blood flow and nutrition, starting with your very next meal. You are never too old for good food to make a meaningful difference. The 6 vegetables we talked about today, approaching raw spinach and raw cruciferous vegetables and nightshades with appropriate caution, and making garlic, cooked leafy greens like bok choy and collard greens, and beets regular staples of your diet, these are not random recommendations. They are grounded in the specific biology of aging and the specific vulnerabilities and needs that come with being over 60. I want you to take this information and use it. Write it down if that helps. Share this video with someone you care about who might benefit from it. And if you have specific health conditions or you're on medications, please have a conversation with your own doctor about how these dietary considerations apply to your individual situation. Because while general nutrition principles are powerful, personalized medical guidance is irreplaceable. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I'm Dr. Edward Hamilton, and everything I do here on this channel is in service of helping you live the longest, healthiest, most vibrant version of your life possible. If you found this valuable, please give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment below letting me know what surprised you most or what you're going to try first, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what we have coming up next. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.